We're always looking for games with a variety of settings to help make playing easier. In this video, we're going to be looking at Uncharted 4: A Thief's End and its controls and settings. Uncharted 4 is an action-adventure game on the PS4 focusing on Nathan Drake and his friends who are on a treasure hunt that leads them all over the world. The game features various gameplay elements including exploration, combat, and driving. We'll be taking a look at the controls for each element, as well as looking at the settings to make the game easier for some players. Before starting a game, you have to select a difficulty. You can choose between Explorer, Light, Moderate, Hard, and Crushing. Explorer is the easiest difficulty as it's designed for players who would rather focus on the story rather than the combat. Crushing is the hardest difficulty available, and certain settings are not available in this mode, which we will take a look at later in the video. The lower the difficulty, the less resistance enemies will have and the more damage you will be able to take. We will first take a look at the default controls used when exploring. Left stick controls your character, and right stick controls the camera. Cross will make your character jump and climb certain walls. When climbing walls, you have to point the left stick in the direction you want to climb whilst pressing cross. Cross also lets you surface whilst underwater. Circle will drop you down during climbing. It will also allow you to grab a ledge from below while standing near an edge. Whilst in water, circle will allow you to dive. As you progress through the game, you'll get to certain climbing surfaces where you'll have to use a pin to climb further. Pressing square will use the pin whilst climbing on craggy surfaces. Triangle allows you to interact with objects and ammo when prompted. L1 uses your rope. You'll know when you can use your rope as the L1 prompt will show on screen. When using your rope, you can swing using the left stick or rappel by holding L1 and moving up and down on left stick. Pressing cross will release the rope. You know when it is safe to let go of the rope, as Nathan will have his arms stretched out to grab a ledge or land safely. If you're stuck on a puzzle or unsure where to go for a period of time, a prompt will show letting you know that a hint is available. You can access this hint by pressing D-pad up. D-pad down allows you to find your ally or vehicle in certain situations, such as when they want to show you something, or if you cannot find your vehicle. Touchpad will bring up your journal, and options pauses the game. We will now take a look at the default combat controls. Circle allows you to take cover if you're next to a wall. It also acts as roll when not near a wall. Square acts as your melee attack. It also acts as the handbrake when driving a vehicle. Triangle will reload your weapon. Holding down triangle when by a weapon will pick it up. Holding down R1 makes your character aim an explosive, such as a grenade or dynamite. Releasing R1 throws it. Holding down L2 will aim your weapon. Whilst aiming, pressing cross will swap your shoulder view. Another action you can do whilst aiming is marking by pressing L3. This allows you to track the enemies with a white marker during an encounter. Holding down L2 also acts as brake and reversing when controlling a car or boat. R2 fires your weapon. For some weapons, you will have to hold R2 down to continuously fire. When controlling a vehicle, holding R2 is also used for accelerate. R3 will use the zoom feature on certain weapons with a scope, such as sniper rifles. D-pad left and right will change weapon. You can hold one small weapon and one long weapon at a time. There are various settings in the game that can be turned on to make the game easier for some players. We will start with looking at the settings in the game submenu. So if we pause the game, go into Options, and then go into Game. You can change the difficulty within a chapter if you are struggling to complete it. NPC marking allows you to see where your allies are, whilst threat indicators signal whether enemies have seen you during stealth sections. If an enemy sees you, the grey marker above an enemy's head will gradually fill up until you're hidden again. The lower the difficulty, the slower it fills up. When it's full, it will turn yellow and enemies will start looking around for you. If they find you, the marker will turn orange and enemies will start attacking. NPC marking and threat indicators are not available in crushing difficulty. Now let's take a look at the camera controls submenu. Here, you can change the sensitivity of the horizontal and vertical camera movements for both aiming and the camera controls. Turning the sensitivity down to 0 will make the camera move slowly, whilst turning it up to 10 will significantly make the camera movements faster. You can also invert the camera movements for aiming and camera controls. By default, moving the right stick to the left moves it left, and right moves it right. By changing horizontal from default to inverted, the movements are swapped around, so that moving the right stick to the left will move the camera right, and pushing it to the right will move it left. For default up and down movements, pushing the right stick up will move the camera up, and pushing down will move the camera down. Changing the vertical movements from default to inverted swaps these movements around. So pushing up will move it down, and pushing down will move it up. With camera assist turned on, the camera will automatically follow your character around. This reduces the need for the right stick. Vehicle camera assist is a similar option. However, the camera follows you whilst driving the vehicle. This also reduces the need for right stick. We will now explore the settings in the controls submenu. You can choose a control scheme for L3, R3 and cross actions to suit your preference. By default, L3 marks enemies, R3 zooms with scope, and cross is shoulder swap. Each control scheme swaps these functions over and every possible combination is available. If you have a preferred shoulder view when aiming, you can turn on Remember Shoulder Swap so that you don't have to keep changing it when you aim. You can swap the left stick and right stick functions over, so that right stick becomes character movement and left stick becomes camera movement. You can do the same with aiming, so that you can aim with the left stick and move your character with the right stick. By having the stick functions as default and sticks whilst aiming as flipped, the need for right stick is greatly reduced, so you can play through a lot of the game using a single stick. If you're wanting to play with a single stick, such as left stick, and set the sticks while aiming to flipped, then your character would not be able to walk around whilst aiming. There are times where you have to repeatedly press a button to complete an action, such as getting out of an enemy's grasp or moving an object. You can change this so that you hold down a button rather than tapping it. The button hold option also works for hand-to-hand combat, so you can hold down square to continuously attack an enemy. You can choose how much aim assist you want. By default, the aim assist is set to 10. By having it to 10, your aim reticle will stick to enemies better. By turning it down to 0, you will have to be more accurate with your aiming, as the aim reticle will not stick to enemies. For aiming your weapon, you can choose between toggle or hold. With toggle, this means that a single press of the aim button will make your character enter aim mode. Pressing it again will take you out. Turning on lock-on aim can help you with aiming, therefore reducing the need of the right stick. When you see white markers around an enemy, entering aim mode will lock onto that enemy. You can choose a button scheme for the shoulder buttons. By default, L1 is rope, L2 is aim and brake, R1 is grenade, and R2 is fire and accelerate. Changing the scheme and the left and right option swaps the button functions around, and every single button layout is possible. So for example, you can set the aiming and firing to the right shoulder buttons by setting the scheme to sided and the left and right option to flipped. This means the grenade and the rope actions will be mapped to the left shoulder buttons. The Accessibility submenu provides a more condensed list of settings that we discussed and found in other submenus. Each setting has a description of what it does in-game, giving the player an informed decision whether or not to use them. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with Special Effects.